Hi, this is Melanie Leekowski from Mrs. L's Leveled Learning. That is my online medium for sharing the work I did in my classroom with mostly elementary students, gifted and high ability, in my Arizona district, where we had to make learning goals and scales all on our own. So I did some work with that. I'm going to share with you this example of learning goals and scales for fourth grade. They are posters that I use for all the English language arts standards, and they are editable so that if you're in a different state, you are able to kind of code this, or if you have special district requirements, you would be able to change this to meet your requirements. So in the document, you'll see a couple different pages. This explains kind of where learning goals and scales come from based on Marzano's book, The Art and Science of Teaching, and a quick breakdown of some of the levels of scales and what they mean. Credits, this will kind of tell you some other sources where I got my information and examples from. It was a lot of thinking and lots of hours to kind of put all these scales together. This is what the scales look like. In the document, the scales have visible, editable sections that won't show up when you print them, so you don't have to worry about that being an interference. Let me show you how this works. You click on each section that you want to be editable. If you are showing these to students digitally, you can always unclick highlight existing fields and you won't have that interference of the fuzzy blue squares. It's nice to show these on your bulletin board if you have a smart board, or from your computer to just kind of introduce it to students and highlight things. If you want to change it, you click on the fields and you can change the wording. If you have specific state coding, you can change the lettering for that. Florida, let's see, ELA standards for Florida, reading language 1, whatever you need to do. Let's see. This is a quote from the standards based on Common Core, but since most states are modifying Common Core to a certain extent, it really functions as just a cheat sheet for you. It's adult language from the standard, so it's a reminder to you of what you're focusing on in this standard, but the language in sections 3 and 4 are what the students are going to pay attention to. So really here you could abbreviate this, refer to details and examples in a text when explaining. Okay, maybe you don't want to have this so long, you just want a quick dot 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 for yourself to remember. Explicitly, and when drawing inferences, okay, you might just want to say, okay, draw inferences, explain explicitly, okay. Whatever you need to put here to remind yourself of the details that you want to cover with students and pay attention to. This is for you, your little cheat sheet to the standard. This larger section is for the students to understand what they're paying attention to for this standard or for your lesson that day. Level 3 is the grade level content, and it's just rephrasing what the standard says. I can use details from the text to explain what the author says or make inferences. Level 1 and 2 are working up to that grade level skill, and level 4 is above grade level. Now, different states or districts might have different requirements for the wording, the language, and the criteria for your level 3s and 4s. My district kind of said do whatever you want. It could be content that's above grade level but related to the standard. It could be higher order thinking skills. Since a lot of teachers, especially I worked in Title I schools, and I understand you don't have access to curriculum above grade level sometimes, or it's tough to do that research and be teaching different content for different kids, it is easier to use Bloom's or Marzano's taxonomy and the higher order thinking skills. So you will see that making inferences based on multiple sources, taking information from 2 different texts, we kind of extended in this example how your higher or gifted students could apply this standard. on their own. Usually for my high kids, I have them think of a project, especially if they're gifted. Okay, how could you do this? Or what text would you like to use to do this? Or how can you connect two different texts and show the inferences from each one? Maybe you're combining language arts with a nonfiction text and showing how the inferences make sense between them, or maybe a story and a poem. And just giving multiple examples of making inferences and explaining them. So they'd be going a step beyond, because they're not just going to take a sentence out of a text and explain it. They're going to do the work of finding their own. If you want to change this a little bit, you can do things like, let's say instead of multiple sources, you just want them to make inferences above grade level based on materials above grade level. So you can make those changes because these are editable sections. So anything that's highlighted in blue, levels 3, 4, your cheat sheet, and the coding for each standard is changeable for you to suit your classroom. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, by higher order thinking skills and Marzano's taxonomy, let me show you a little cheat sheet I like to use here. I found this online from Westminster Public Schools, and I like the color coding, so I kind of use this to help me. It is a list of verbs that give you ideas about what kind of thinking skills or cognitive skills would be challenging enough to represent levels 3 or 4. So knowledge utilization and analysis are the higher levels. It's kind of inverted from our scale here. One's at the bottom. Here, retrieval is at the bottom, is at the top. So these are the kind of working from easiest to hardest as you go down to analysis and knowledge utilization. I usually take verbs from either of these sections for my level 4, depending on what the standard already asks them to do. Sometimes if the grade level standard is already asking them to analyze, then I make sure I use a knowledge utilization cognitive task. So the nice thing is you can change this to suit your own needs, or if you don't have time to change it, you don't have to, because it's already done for you. Every poster scale will have the same features, and like I said, the work is already done for you. So these are ones that I've already developed. You can make minor changes, major changes, or no changes at all, depending on what you need for your district. There are blank pages that you can use, and here I kind of typed in an example. If you want to totally start from scratch and just you don't like the way any of this is written, you could redo 4th grade RL2, reading literature for RL2, and type in your own, or as I had before, reading project criteria. You might design a project where you have different kids working at different levels, and then you can kind of stipulate specific things you'd like each of them to do. Again, it's really helpful to use this taxonomy when you're developing those tasks. Reading literature scale. Okay, so here's a couple more posters. Every domain of the language arts will have a blank poster for you to edit on your own, or you can recreate it. Also, the posters have some black and whites so that you can print them. Not every school has color printing, and it's really expensive. So using black and white if you're printing them for students or printing them for bulletin boards can be nice. You could even find your print features. I've done this before for parents or for student binders, homework binders, kind of send home a list of the ones that we're working on currently. A lot of printers give you the option to print multiple pages. So you could go ahead and set your pages. Let's say I want pages 4 through 8. So I can get my reading language things in there, and it's going to pop up and show me. Let me show you what that's going to look like. Pages 4 through 8. And it will show you kind of the layout. And so you can print multiple ones at a time, and that's nice too. Okay. What else can I show you about these? If this is something that you're interested in that could really help you, if your school requires you to use learning goals and scales, go ahead and click the link at the bottom. It's going to take you to the product page where you can download this, preview for free, kind of play with it, see if it's going to work for you in your classroom before you invest in the larger product, which will have all of the English language arts standards. Thanks so much for your interest and your time.